Welcome to the Winter 2016 in-service. This is the first session, which is 5 keys to retaining students in online courses. And of course, I'm John. I'll be leading you through this. And let's begin. A little bit of background on how this all came about is one of our department goals for academic delivery is student retention in the classroom, keeping the butts in the seats. And we'd like to have that number be in the mid to upper 90s, of course. But right now, our goal is just to make sure you guys all can get to over 90%. And I know if you're teaching intro to business or composition, you're going to be a little bit lower than if you're teaching the capstone courses in the courses, but we want it to all average out to be in the 90 percentile. So what I did was I looked to some external sources to see what's been published that was specific to online retention in classrooms versus just regular retention in the classroom, which a lot of that can't really apply to us because we're not face to face with our students every day sitting in a room. So this was what I did was I looked to 14 external studies and papers. I got them from different four-year schools, also community colleges, and even some other just collegiate publications, and was able to find 14 quality studies that really showed a lot of good best practices and tips to retaining students. And I also looked to some of our best practices here at Globe to see what we've done, like the classes that have the high retention rates, what are those instructors doing to help retain their students? And I compiled it all together. And before I go to the next slide to show you the big unveil of what the 5 keys are, I just wanted you guys all to take a chance to read that quote at the bottom because I found it to be very fitting. It came from one of the studies, and it reads, "Since students take online courses for the sake of convenience instead of academic experience alone, when situational barriers arise which affect their ability to successfully integrate educational pursuits with personal obligation, their priorities tend towards the personal." And I know I can probably speak for everyone here. You've had at least one student in your class who has dropped, not because they were failing, but because something came up in their other life that they wanted to attend to instead. And those students are the ones that we really need to say, you know what, you're paying a lot for this. This is expensive, an expensive investment you made in your learning, and you can't just drop it like it's a Netflix movie and pick it back up. So without further ado, here are the 5 keys that were drawn from these 14 studies. They all basically came back with 5 reoccurring topics that they all talked about. There were a couple outliers, but it was interesting to find that most of the papers mentioned at least these 5 things. And they are feedback, turnaround time, collaboration, interaction, and the learning environment. So what I'm going to do today is basically take you through each one, tell you in detail what each of these keys are and how you can apply it to your classes. So, and I'll also be asking for some feedback along the way to kind of pull out from some of you what you're doing in these areas already so you can share them with other people who may not have had that idea. So let's begin with the learning environment. The learning environment is your entire classroom. It's your entire communication process with the student from the time you send your welcome announcement till the time you input your final grades. Everything you do between those 2 periods of time is part of the student's learning environment. And what these studies have said is there are 3 things that your learning environment should always include, and that is to make it a positive learning environment, You should be utilizing praise, welcoming attitude, motivation, really make them feel like they're welcome in the class and they're really missed if they're not in the class. They need to feel motivated in order to be pushed to success. Next, it needs to be a caring environment. And that really goes along with the mission of the college. Our mission is we care, and they really kind of hit it on the head when they refocus their mission to that, because especially in online learning, that is one of the three most important elements of the learning environment, to show students that you're not just mailing it in, and you know what, if they can't do something or aren't able to turn something in, too bad, I don't really care, just get it done. But since they already are kind of disconnected by being hundreds, maybe thousands of miles away, they really do need someone to show them that they do care, that they're there in that seat. And finally, flexibility. Now, with flexibility, we're not saying don't to be a pushover. We don't want you to be just a pushover. You know what? I'm going to accept everything late. I'm going to do it, whatever I can. We want you to adhere to your late policies, but just to be flexible when needs arise. When something out of the control of the student happens, or something that is a major life thing happens in the student's life, just be able to be flexible, because that goes a long way in the online learning environment. These three things really do align with the mission that we have at the college, like I mentioned, and they really will go a long way to helping the student. You should be using all three of these in your welcome announcement, your additional course policies, designing those and making sure they fit, in your discussion board posts, and in all of your communications, whether it be email or Blackboard IM or phone, anything. So to kind of drive home what the learning environment really entails, I put together a little example here, one that probably a lot of you can relate to. Here we have a student who is having a major computer issue. Maybe they can't get LabSim or SAM to work. They are having so many issues, and this is what their face probably actually looks like as they sit at their home computer. And so what do all the students do when this happens? Well, their first step is always reach out to their instructor. So the instructor has two things they can do. They can take this first stance, which is, I don't know, get your work done, contact the service desk or the publisher website. That's all I can tell you. Good luck. Or you can take the option B, which is to be their superhero, to swoop in and save them. Since they've never used this software before, and well, you see it every day, you could swoop in and say, sure, I'll help, I'll take care of that, let's go through this together and figure it out, and really change that frightening face that they have there into a smile. And I guarantee you, if you help them with one issue, like sincerely help them with one issue, they will stay with you for the entire course and probably never complain again. So before I go on to the last slide in this one, what I would like to garner from you guys, aside from this example, and if I go back to this last page, what are some things that you guys do currently in your courses that show the three attributes here of being positive, caring, and flexible? What are some things maybe that I didn't mention that are outside of the traditional course policies or helping a student with a computer issue? Is there anything else that you can think of that you really do that maybe students have even commended you on your caring or flexible or positive nature in your courses? Maybe a minute or so to think about it. Nice, Linda. One-on-one interaction with students. And that's actually going to parlay into a future key that we're going to talk about. Yes, if you can meet with them even outside of office hours, you're right, that is huge. Students are going to remember that you really connected with them personally. And Lacey, with MindTap, I emailed them on the third day of the course if they have not logged in to see if they're having issues. That's excellent. That shows that the students that you really are paying attention to them and are showing that you care, that they actually are getting in and making sure they do it. That's excellent. Lori echoes Linda with saying helping them on the phone. That's excellent. Catherine shares current events and job opportunities. Career Services is going to love that one. That is excellent. Janelle, I check emails throughout the day and usually respond a few minutes to a couple hours. Speaks to another key. Wonderful. We're getting a whole bunch of these keys spelled out here right in the learning environment section. I love it. Lisa, use words please and thank you frequently communicating with my students. Yes. Amazing what the power of little words like that can do for students. I mean, something as little as saying good job, it really can make a student put a smile on their face. Meredith, I always thank them for their discussion assignments. I always ask them to feel welcome to comment on any discussion if they didn't start the thread. Wonderful. And there again, thanking them, just the little things, they really do matter. Lacey does several check-ins via email to open the lines of communication. I love that. Staying connected with them. Diana Block, reaching out to them when they have not participated that week. There you go. That's just like Lacey, except you take it to the week by week thing. Wonderful. I encourage everyone to do that. That's huge. If they're not participating, just give them a quick email. It can even be a pre-formatted one that you could just send out over and over. Just say, you know what, we really missed you. Let me know if there's anything you can do. Stay caught up. It's a 6-week class. It goes fast. Tiny thing takes a tiny bit of time, but huge help. Vincent's being available throughout Blackboard Collaborate, reaching out to them. Wow, you guys are just pummeling this. I have 19 more to go, and I don't know if I can get to all these. But the good thing is, when this is recorded, all these comments will come up so everybody can read through them. You guys are awesome this morning. It must have been the music, right? That must be it. Correct assignments handed in early in the week to thank them for getting them in earlier. I love that, John. Absolutely. If they handed it on Tuesday and they can get their grade by Wednesday of the week, before the week's even over, I'm sure they love that. And Amy makes sure feedback is in the classroom, is courteous, supportive, and friendly. There's another key we're going to touch on. I love it. Another one, checking emails through the day, honest with your students about the quality of their writing. Oh my gosh, you guys. All right, so basically as I scroll down here, and you guys have probably seen all of these pop up on your screen too and have read through them. If I read through all these, I'm afraid that we will never get to the end of the presentation. But holy cow, I love all of these. Everybody, you guys are nailing the learning environment. So we probably don't have to spend too much more time on this, because I love these ideas. If you haven't had a chance to scroll down the side here, just scroll down as I'm going through, because you'll want to read every single one of these. These are like gold. All right, there are keywords that you should use when communicating to students who are frustrated and having issues, and these will really help the student to, in a sense, calm down. One of them is, let's figure this out together, or things like, we should try this first. And if you noticed, both of these contain elements that show them they're not alone in the challenge, that you're there working with them through it. And this will really help to calm their nerves, because oftentimes when you get a student that's frustrated, the reason they're frustrated is because they feel totally alone and totally freaked out that if they don't figure it out, nobody's going to figure it out for them, and they're going to be lost and get far behind and fail, and life is going to end. Whew. So what you just need to do is say, you know what? I'm here for you. Let's try this. Let's do this. And when they see that you're really including yourself in their challenge, it should really help them out. As many of you Sved, even like Renee here says at the end, saying appreciate it, and using those inclusive words, and that you're paying attention to them and their needs. So there you go. That is the learning environment. And next, we're going to move on to our second key, which is feedback to students. This is a big one, and this is one that you guys are quite familiar with because we now started doing inline grading feedback, plus we're leaving comments in the comments area, plus we're trying to be as constructive as we possibly can. And what almost every one of these studies wrote in part of their study, and what I've actually noticed in several of my instructors who leave the most detailed feedback, they have very high retention rates. And this is very true because this is basically what students rely on for a huge chunk of their learning in the online world. Since they're not sitting through 4-hour lectures and getting all the supplementary stuff in class, and they're getting maybe 10 minutes of lecture a week and having done to read the book and do PowerPoints and complete assignments, that's it. What they really rely on is getting some value out of feedback on the work they're doing. If they feel like they're not getting anything except, good job, you did it, then they're going to start to feel frustrated and lost and probably feel like the class isn't benefiting them at all, and they'll drop. So what these studies have kind of collaborated on and came out with as outcomes is that feedback should have these following elements. Number one, it should be constructive and individualized. Remember those two words. And also, it should be motivating and encouraging. So that's the keeping it positive part that we talked about in the learning environment. If you can keep all 4 of these words in your vocabulary and in the back of your mind when you're doing your feedback, you should be able to completely impress your students. When you're writing feedback, make sure that you're building confidence, making them feel like they're actually doing a good job, and showing them where they can improve in areas that they're not doing so well. Now, this is old hat. Most of you are already doing this. To take it to the next level, try to include these elements in all feedback that you give to students. This is my challenge to you. See if you can include every one of these elements in every piece of feedback you give to the student. So on the assignment, you should write, number 1, what did they do right? What did they do excellent? What stood out to you that they did on that assignment? Number 2, what things did they get wrong? What corrections need to be made in order to get them on the right track for that assignment? Number 3, why was it wrong? Don't just say, you needed more detail on this part, or your analysis of that topic was incorrect. Because they aren't going to know what that means. I don't understand. Why is that wrong? Why is it incorrect? Why didn't I analyze that right? So give them some insight as to exactly what the right answer is, and then educate them on it. If they don't know something, if we go back to this previous example, this is some actual feedback, you can see absolutely, Janelle, everybody loves rationale. Everybody wants to know that there's a reason that they got points deducted, and they also want to learn from it. And on the bottom here, you can see there is something that was perhaps marked wrong a little bit, and there's this huge, long explanation of some on-the-job training is verbal too. The good part is the supervisor can get to know their employee better, and it's really telling you exactly, they're able to teach them. It's a teachable moment that you don't just have to write feedback to this person or trainings or whatever it was. This text is way too small for me to read. But there are these other things that they should take into account. And that's huge. So those are your 4 elements. If you can keep those in, all 4 of them, you should have students giving you all 5s on your end of quarter surveys for feedback on your assignments because students will love it to death. So there it is. There's your four elements that I will challenge you on. Let's move on to the third key. And this is student-instructor interaction. Pay attention to this sentence right here because this was mentioned in no less than 8, almost verbatim, no less than 8 of those studies. That isolation has been shown to be a major cause of not retaining students online. And basically, if the student feels that they're alone and they hit a roadblock, they're going to feel like they have no one to turn to in that roadblock and they're going to disappear. Absolutely, Renee. Yes. It's your job to build the community, not just to grade the papers and post a couple discussions, but to really build a community and make people feel like they belong in your class. So in order to do that, number one, which most of you people, this is why we say you need to post a welcome announcement and personally welcome everyone to class. And we do that for a reason. It's number one, getting to know your students and getting your students to know you. Via email, discussion board, a few instructors do personal phone calls to each student every quarter at the beginning of the quarter just to introduce themselves, welcome themselves. We in the faculty meeting a few quarters ago, we showed you guys how to access student email or phone numbers, I believe. If not, let me know. I can send you the link. It's right in your portal. And you spend a quick 2-minute phone call to each student in your class, and they will remember that. I remember when I took an online class, I had an instructor that actually did this. And I will remember that online class forever because I remember getting a phone call and just being totally blown away that this instructor just called me out of the blue just to say, welcome to class. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of me this way or via email, and gave me a little introduction to the class, and that was it. It was like 2 minutes, but that was, what, 10, 12 years ago? I still remember that like it was yesterday. So students will remember that. It's huge. And then don't just drop off the face of the earth after you send your welcome announcements and then you don't communicate with them until you give them their final grades. Just keep building the connection over the quarter. So, as a lot of people wrote that they send out progress reports, or if people are not showing up to class, they're sending them emails. If they haven't logged into MindTap, they're sending them quick emails. Absolutely. Do that all quarter. Just tiny little bits of communication. If somebody's doing really well, if somebody's getting 100% in your class, you know what? Don't leave them out. Send them a quick email saying, hey, through 3 weeks, you've got like a 95% going in the class. I'm really impressed with that. Because our focus, yes, should be on students who are falling behind, but don't forget about the other ones too. Everyone's important. So, and finally, involve them in the class. And there are many ways to do this. What out of the box kind of things can you guys think of doing to increase student-instructor interaction in the courses you teach? Once again, I'll give you a couple minutes. I know with the group that we have on here, you guys are, you guys are doers, so I know I'll get a lot of really cool tips and tricks. I know we've already got a few of these mentioned before by saying that they reach out to students who are falling behind or haven't logged in. Are there any other things that you can think of or that you currently do that really increases your interaction with students outside of discussion boards? I love it. Look at that. Webinars, sharing all the different kinds of ways that they can get additional knowledge. Lori's always on IM when she's on the computer, and I know I've heard students even commend you on that. They've let me know. Like she's always on IM. She always gets back, responds to me right away, and that holds true for a couple instructors that do that, and that's really great. Students love that. Amy has created personalized Jing screencasts. Oh, here they come. Hold on, I gotta scroll up here. Screencasts to address confusion in a particular area. That's excellent. And Catherine asks students to zip them emails to let them know how I can improve the class. I love that. Feedback from students. Personal feedback outside of their end of quarter surveys. That's great. Bev, when responding to discussion board, I always try to comment to them what another student on the chain found an aha moment in their post. Nice. Sharing, because you know they don't read every single post. So that's good. That's connecting. If I see articles related to research, I send the links to the students. I bet they really appreciate that. I believe in the triangulation of the message. If I share it with students, another expert who's delivering the same message, I can stick with that. I love that, Steve. That's great. And Renee says, like Lori, always on IM. Absolutely. Heather sends individualized check-in emails, mentions something individual that I've learned about them through the discussions. Holy cow, that is huge. Students will always remember that. Katie, when someone mentions a large event in their life, I follow up a week or two later to see how they're doing. That's huge. And that even goes back to the caring, supportive learning environment. That's great. Students are really going to see that you care. Also create YouTube accounts only for Gen students so they can find videos if they miss one. Great. Ellen also does what Katie does with the reaching out to students. Students know they can text me and I respond back right away. Hey, that's huge. If you guys have unlimited text on your phone, that's the way of the future for communication with students. They'll likely not want to call you and bother you, but they will text you, and that is an easy way to respond. Offering live office hours in Skype. Thank you. Oh my gosh, we're going to get to that in the upcoming. You guys are just nailing all these keys. Andy, look to see who's on IM and contact them, ask if they need help. That's great. You can scroll down, see which of your students are online right now, pop them a quick message, just even if it's say hi. How are things going? That's great. Stephanie also does text messages. That's great. Apparently Amanda does too, or she wants to. And Karen, that's great. Chad leaves in their personal cell phone number. That's awesome. I'm sure they appreciate that. There's more text. Small thing, but students once tell me that they feel bad when no one posts for their discussion board. So you post for all the. There you go. I can guarantee all students feel that way. If they post something, there's a little bit of excitement in you to see who will respond to your post, and if nobody does, they probably can feel pretty down about that. So that's great that you seek those out and respond to them so they see that somebody's reading their work. More text messaging. Great job, guys. And you put Elise also puts their name in as a contact in their phone, so that way she knows right away the next time they text who they are. I love it. Boy, your phone book on your phone must be just full of contacts. That's awesome. I love it, guys. Thank you guys so much for all these ideas. These are huge. I'm sure everybody's reading this and thinking, oh, texting, oh, posting to people who haven't got replies. These are great. All right. So there are some technologies that we currently have, and we've mentioned some of these here. Actually, most of them we've mentioned now, so I don't have to spend much time on here, that we can use to interact more with students. You guys mentioned the Blackboard IM. I know you guys are all using that, and we've learned through your guys' posts that some of you are reaching out to them, being proactive instead of reactive. And if you see them online, you'll reach out to them just to make sure they're on pace, staying connected. That's wonderful. Of course, email, Outlook. That's huge. There are some apps that you can actually download for free on whatever. Well, we have iPads, but they have other devices, and there are some that are cross-device compatible apps that you can download and connect with your students, kind of a virtual classroom type of a thing. You can invite all the students on some of them into that class, and then it's kind of a separate from Blackboard IM way where you guys all have that app on your phone or on your device, and you guys can connect and they can collaborate with other students in the class, and it's kind of just another environment. And also, of course, somebody said they use Skype to connect with their students. You could also use FaceTime. Really, if students are able to and are willing to show you their face, video chatting is huge. It's the next best thing to be sitting in the classroom and helping them in person. So encourage you guys to encourage your students to use things like FaceTime or Skype or things like that where you can actually talk and see them. And that way you could even hold up a problem in front of the camera and say, see, this is how I got this problem, this answer, or you can email to them while you're talking. You can actually see the expressions on their face. If they have a confused look, you know you need to help them more. So wonderful. I think we got this down. Let's move on. I won't even ask this because you guys already answered. You guys are ahead of me. Number 4 of the 5 is providing quick turnaround. Another reason we have that rule of responding within 72 hours with grading feedback and making sure you post on the discussion boards before the end of the week and things of that nature. The reason we have those rules in place is because studies have shown that if students take a long time to get their feedback from their assignments, they're more likely to give up hope and say, you know what, the instructor doesn't care enough to grade my stuff, then I don't care enough to do my stuff. I'm just going to drop off the face of the earth. So right now, we do 24 hours for email and phone. If you can do it in less, I know some of you said, you try to get back to them within minutes or hours. Check your email. If you can get your email to your phone, sometimes you can get the email to pop up just like a text message and you can respond immediately. That's going to be huge. Students are going to feel like they have someone they can rely on to respond to their questions immediately, and they'll stay in your class. I know we say grade in 3 days or less. If you can grade in 2 days or less, which is kind of one of the reasons why the new rubrics for spot checks have those the numbering systems, because 3 is if you're doing a good job, and that's 72-hour grading. And then we have 4, if you do it in 48 or less, that's going above and beyond expectations. And the reason we have that in place is in part because of this. It's proven that the quicker you can get grades back to them, the more likely they will stay in your class. And then, of course, as I'm sure all of you do, respond instantly on IM. Be highly visible, respond to questions, just try to be as active as you can in making sure students' needs are met. Janelle said she's been using 48 or less this term, and it's great because remember you can start grading things before the end of the unit. If people are can't remember who said it, you can give a shout out if it was you, that if they turn their stuff in early, you grade it early. I think it was John Stamba. If they turn their stuff in on Thursday, you can grade it on Thursday if you want. You can just kind of check each day. If you spread it out, you're grading out instead of saying, okay, Wednesday is going to be my grading day. I'm going to grade, 50 assignments on Wednesday. Some of you guys do that. I know. I used to do that in some of my classes. That's going to be my grading day. I'm going to get it all done. I'm going to pound it all out, and holy cow, burnout. But absolutely, if you just do a couple a day, you have to log in to check your email every day anyway. As long as you're checking in on your course and your email, and you see, oh, there's 2 people that handed things in. Let's just grade them quick. Boom. And that's less you have to do later in the week. So Heather says she does a little grading each day. Absolutely. And that way it forces you to get into the class every day, which you're supposed to be doing, So it forces you to, I got to check in on my class today. There you go. Let's get in there. Let's get some stuff done. All right. Come on. I love it. Grading what they're at their sporting events, especially in downtime, I'm sure. You get a lot of that at sporting events. All right. The last key, and I think this is both a very important key, but also one that can be the most difficult for us to implement in our classes, is collaboration and synchronous learning. We are in a very asynchronous environment. Students log in at all hours of the day, all days of the week. Some of them will read the chapter and then watch your lectures and then look at the additional resources. Some people go straight to the additional resources and then watch your lectures, and maybe they won't even read the chapters. They do it at all different rates. And this is completely different than if they were actually in the classroom at a residential class, where they are told to read the chapters first, then come to class, and then we have our 2 hours of lecture. Then you get your assignment, you go home, you do it, you come back the next class session, so on and so forth. If you think about it, uh, almost every student that you have in your class comes from a traditional educational background. I'm not saying a traditional higher ed background, but a traditional education background. Everybody went to kindergarten, elementary school, high school. So they spent their first 13 years of their school careers at a desk in a classroom listening to a teacher. That's how they were trained to learn. It's how we were trained to learn since we were like 5 years old. And now all of a sudden we're throwing this online environment at them and saying, well, here you go. Good luck. And this drastically changes the way that they perceive education and learning. And so it's a challenge. It's a challenge to a lot of students. You can probably tell the residential students that come into your classes have a whole different world ahead of them than the online students that are in your classes. The residential ones are usually the ones that tend to feel a little bit more needy and a little bit more, they maybe even reach out to you a little bit more because they're used to that contact. They're used to being able to raise their hand in the middle of class and ask a question, or at the end of class walking up to the instructor and saying, you know what, can you go over that one thing with me again? I didn't understand when you talked about this. And that's a lot different than when they log into their first online class, and it's if I need something from my instructor, I have to email them and then wait for a response, which could take up to a day. So well, that's very interesting, Brian. There's kids are starting to use web-based online learning in elementary school and middle school. That'll help us in the future because by the time they get to us, hopefully they'll be used to it, and this will be a lot less of an issue. But right now, I implore, how do we tackle this huge gap we have where we have students who know what a classroom is supposed to look like, and then they come in the first quarter to an online setting and are like, oh my gosh, this is totally different. What do we do? This is the last time I'll ask for your guys' input. What are some things we can do to incorporate synchronous learning? Getting as much of the class together at one time to do something. Absolutely, Lacey. We need to be very personal about it and have a kind of goes back to the first key of your welcoming classroom environment. There you go. There's a good collaboration. Tell them to IM each other when you're online. Show them the full value of Blackboard IM and that they are all on with each other too. Absolutely. Calling the student. Group assignments. There's one built in we have right there. Nice. Good job, Karen. That's why we build group assignments in to a lot of the classes, not only so they can practice teamwork, but also it gives them a little bit of a classroom environment feeling. Yes, lecture reviews are helping. It's really, they are watching the lectures. It makes them feel like they're sitting in a classroom lecture. You're right. Laura says set up a group forum in Campus Connect so that they can work with each other, ask questions. Absolutely. Yeah, if you can get them, even if it's not a group assignment, if they can be collaborating and just getting into a discussion board to bounce questions off each other about assignments, that may be one less thing they have to come to you with. Stephanie, hold a Skype meeting with the class for your introduction. Wonderful. That's kind of the little graphic I created here. I created a Skype session and put up an intro thing. Great idea. You know, you say, hey, welcome to class on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. I'll be on this Skype session, or, you know, I want everybody to log in if you can, even if it's just for a couple minutes so you can meet your other classmates. Absolutely. There's building those connections. Bev provides weekly voice messages, and I know you do that, and those are awesome. She leaves them all voice messages saying, basically with what a lot of you guys do with your announcements that you send out weekly, she calls them. Linda early on offers to meet with anyone has concerns via Skype by phone. Absolutely, yep. And that goes back to that one-on-one interaction too. That's great. Ellen likes lecture reviews too. I'm getting a big consensus that those lecture reviews are awesome. I agree. Jad believes since our students are very mobile, I would suggest Blackboard IM isn't available on cell phones. They should text or collaborate with each other. Absolutely, yeah. You know, and there are, like I mentioned in a few slides back, there are those other apps you can get, and you can enroll all of your students into it as long as they give you their, as long as they have the app too, and then they can collaborate that way. They can all get together, just pop into their app, text back and forth. It's huge. Lori creates lecture recordings for each chapter. Whoa. Broken up concepts and then refer back to them in a link. Yes, and there are a few of you, like Lori, that do about 5, 6, 7, 8 short lectures every single week and break them up concept by concept. Those are huge because students actually feels like they're sitting in class learning about different things. Good. Using examples of homework problems in weekly lectures, so you're tying things they're actually doing into the lectures. Yes, Bev, I will. And actually, I have to refine that again because when I took that screenshot for that slide, I had about 4 of them that I was trying to choose from, and I chose that one, and then I don't know what I did with that list. So I will get that list. I can send that out to everybody. It's kind of a follow-up to this, what those apps are that you can get all your students to buy into. And most of them are free. Chad also found attending graduations and meeting each other in person. Yes, absolutely. Anytime you can meet with a student in person or teach them something in person, it's going to be something big and huge for them. So I agree. Well, thank you guys so much for that. This has been such a fun experience. So to sum up, the 5 keys that you guys need to keep in the back of your mind when you're designing, developing, and delivering your classes is your learning environment, your quality feedback, interacting with students one-on-one, providing quick turnaround, as quick as you possibly can while still keeping it quality, and having a collaborative, when possible, synchronous learning environment. There you have it. If you can even incorporate 4 of the 5 of these regularly into your class, guarantee you will see an increase in student retention. And it's proven based on all of those studies and things that we've already seen in our classes. So there you have it. I'm going to open up the floor to any questions you may have, as we still have about a couple minutes before you guys got to pop off and get on to the next presentation. While I leave the floor open for questions, I'm just going to quickly go through these last couple slides here because these are just some links to the external studies. When we post this, I'll post the video in the faculty course. I'll also post the PowerPoint so you can actually go through and click on these links and check out these studies if you're interested in them. And there you have it. Thank you guys all for attending. And thank you guys all for sharing your ideas too. This was huge. I really enjoyed this. Enjoy the second session starting in about 12 minutes.